seduction, confidence, power. Those three aren't random buzzwords. They're the operating system behind how people move the world. They don't sit in separate boxes either. They lock together like gears. If you learn one, the next becomes easier. If you master all three, you stop playing the game and start shaping it. Niccolo Machiavelli, often flattened into a cartoon villain by people who never read him, wasn't just talking about kings and battlefields. He was dissecting human behavior. He studied why some people quietly bend rooms, circles, and nations around them. Here's the first truth most folks miss. Seduction, in Machiavelli's sense, isn't limited to romance. It's the craft of becoming irresistible in any arena: business, politics, friendship, negotiation, even conflict. Confidence, in this frame, isn't a self-help slogan. It's armor. And power, it's not seized by force alone. It's granted by perception, by what others assume about you before you say a word. So let's start at the beginning of the transformation, becoming the kind of person who doesn't chase attention, affection, or status, who draws it. The kind whose self-belief doesn't crack under pressure. The kind people don't have to follow. They want to. You don't need to be the most attractive person in the room. You need to be the most compelling. Desire rarely blooms from what's easy and obvious. It's born from tension, from the sense that something valuable might become yours, but isn't yours yet. That's your first Machiavellian lever: uncertainty. Create it without creating chaos. You don't owe the world constant availability. Don't flood people with your time, your opinions, your attention. Make your presence feel earned. Speak less than they expect. Hold eye contact, then break it first. Don't pass out smiles like flyers. Let warmth be a privilege. You're not playing hard to get to be petty. You're honoring your value. Mystery is a magnet. The more completely you hand yourself over instant replies, all your stories, all your feelings on demand, the faster people stop valuing you. Seduction is not a performance of charm. It's a strategy of intentional scarcity. Now let's talk confidence, the most misunderstood piece of the trio. You've been told it comes after success, after approval, after everyone claps for you. Machiavelli would smirk at that. Confidence is not something you wait to feel. Confidence is something you demonstrate on purpose until reality catches up. You act like someone who belongs in the room, and the room adjusts. That's not delusion, that's leadership. Some people walk through a door and the air shifts. They aren't necessarily richer, smarter, or more accomplished. Their body tells the truth before their mouth opens. I don't need you, but you might need me. So how do you practice that before it feels natural? Own space without apology. Don't fold yourself up to be liked. Stand deliberately. Move slower than your nerves want to. Fast movements scream anxiety. Slow movements signal control. In groups, speak later. Let silence build in your favor. Handle objects, your cup, your phone, your pen deliberately, not fidgeting. And stop explaining yourself to death. Over-justification is insecurity dressed up as sincerity. Real confidence is quiet pressure. It's the steady energy of someone dangerous enough not to keep proving it. Yes, your stomach might be doing backflips. Your heart might be sprinting. None of that matters in the moment. Behavior trains belief. Repeat the posture, the pace, the stillness enough times, and your nervous system catches on. You become what you repeatedly inhabit. Here's the hinge to power. Emotional command yours first, then everyone else's. Machiavelli understood a cold fact. You don't need to be universally loved. You do need to be respected. Admired helps. Feared sparingly can be useful, but above all, respected. Respect is engineered through emotional control. When you can decide what people feel around you, safety, pressure, curiosity, uncertainty, you quietly direct their choices. What do you never show if you're serious about power? Jealousy. It telegraphs that someone else's orbit tugs you. Desperation. It chains your value to their approval. Outrage, unless it's precise and planned. It tells the world you've lost the controls. Effortless admiration. Give it too freely, and you confirm a lower rank. When someone pokes you, get colder. When they flatter you, don't wobble. When they cross a line, look at them like they've embarrassed themselves. Your reactions are your crown or your cage. Think about how forgettable most people become the moment they flinch at an insult, beg for attention, or beam smiles at everyone like a neon sign. Now picture the person who seems slightly bored while others scramble to impress. No raised voice, no rush. That's the one people label powerful, whether they want to or not. To sustain that illusion, and eventually that reality, you need a different social posture. Be the spider, not the fly. The fly chatters, discloses, overshares, and narrates every thought, hoping to be liked. The spider listens, asks pointed questions, offers little, watches closely, and waits. You're not trying to force anyone. Brute force is clumsy and expensive. You're constructing webs, subtle patterns that make people move where you want without realizing it. Practical web building. Give compliments with layers, praise something real, but framed so they lean toward your standard to earn more. Ask questions that expose motives. What made that so important to you? Mirror posture and cadence lightly to establish unconscious rapport. When someone inches too close, emotionally or strategically, withdraw just a step and let them pursue. Let people feel like they're leading while they navigate the path you laid. When they start tangling themselves, don't yank the thread. Just notice. Let tension do the work. This is seduction in its elevated form, not flirtation dominion by invitation. You're not barking orders. You're arranging feelings. People do what they most want to do. Your job is to curate what they most want around you. So far, we've flipped the common myths. Seduction isn't about surface beauty, it's about engineered scarcity and curiosity. Confidence isn't a mood, it's a practiced stance that calcifies into reality. Power isn't loud control, it's quiet authorship of the emotional climate. Appear rare, and people reach. Appear unbothered, and people respect. Appear above the noise, and people align. Here's the darker angle that makes this work. You don't need to truly be any of it at the start. You need to play the role long enough for the role to change you. It's psychological first, visible second, undeniable last. Machiavelli sketched the blueprint. You animate it. Where we go next is deeper into interior architecture. It's not about pretending anymore. It's about becoming. Because eventually the mask fuses to the face. Your choices sculpt your identity. Your restraint becomes your control. Your cultivated mystery becomes actual gravity. That's where we're headed. Emotional sovereignty under pressure. The kind that makes other people recalibrate their tone, their timing, their offers, their boundaries around you without understanding why. But before we dive inward, hold the essentials in your body right now. Leave space, move slowly, speak last, never over-explain, reward selectively, and let silence carry weight. Practice those 6 and watch how people start leaning in. You've already begun shifting perception, and perception is the front door to power. We're now stepping into the inner fortress of Machiavellian power. the invisible place where control becomes instinct and emotion becomes weaponized discipline. Anyone can act confident when things are easy. Real confidence is born in pressure, the insult you don't answer, the rejection you don't chase, the moment you're ignored and you stay calm anyway. That's where the real transformation begins. Most people crumble because they react. Someone disrespects them. They explode. Someone challenges them. They defend. Someone rejects them. They chase validation. That's how ordinary people lose power before the game even starts. Machiavelli saw something colder. The most dangerous individuals don't react. They absorb. They decide when and if to respond. Their silence is not weakness. It's a tactical pause. As he wrote, a wise prince attracts attention by his conduct, not his words. Emotional control isn't the same as apathy. It's higher discipline. It's the ability to feel everything and reveal nothing. When someone insults you, don't correct them. Smile slightly and let the words hang heavy in the air. When someone tries to impress you, don't rush to validate pause. Make them earn it. When you're shaken inside, delay your reaction and give it time to dissolve. Every time you hold still when others would flinch, your presence grows more commanding. People sense stability. They're drawn to it like heat in winter. Soon, they'll think twice before testing you. They'll crave your approval because it's rare. They'll fear your silence because it's unpredictable. You've taught them through restraint that your emotions are not public property. That's real power, being unmoved when the rest are trembling. Seduction, remember, is not just sexual attraction. It's influence without resistance. When Machiavelli spoke of seduction, he meant something far deeper. The ability to make others want to align with you. Not because you forced them, but because they felt it was their choice. You can seduce loyalty, respect, devotion, even fear. The true seducer doesn't sell themselves. They sell a feeling, a sense of discovery, validation, or danger that people crave without understanding why. Most of the world walks around in emotional fog, bored, anxious, lonely, hungry for meaning. A Machiavellian enters that fog like a spark. You don't have to be the most beautiful or charismatic person. You just have to offer contrast, to be something they haven't felt before. Maybe it's mystery, maybe it's calmness, maybe it's danger. Whatever it is, it breaks their numbness. You don't chase attention, you pull it. To do this, mirror their emotional state slightly, then elevate it. If they're excited, become calmly intrigued. If they're nervous, become reassuringly steady. Speak to what they crave, not what they say. People say they want honesty, but they really want fascination. They say they want kindness, but they follow certainty. They say they want love, but they worship mystery. Speak to their true need, and they'll return to you without understanding why. Be ambiguous on purpose. Say just enough to make them curious, then stop. Withhold clarity. Let them fill in the blanks. Ambiguity is the artist's brushstroke of seduction. It makes people project their desires onto you. And above all, make them feel seen, not complimented. Seen. When someone feels that you understand them better than they understand themselves, they attach to you. People don't fall for perfection, they fall for recognition. Make them feel significant, and you become unforgettable. Now let's move from attraction to power, the silent kind that doesn't shout. In every era, loud power burns out fast. The rulers, politicians, and leaders who flaunt their dominance always end up surrounded by resentment. Real power is quiet until it strikes. It's what Machiavelli called tactical invisibility. He taught rulers to appear harmless while plotting with precision, not out of cowardice, but strategy. When people underestimate you, you can't be countered. So practice withholding. Withhold your next move. Withhold your long-term goals. Withhold your emotional extremes. Not out of coldness, but to protect leverage. The less others can predict you, the more they respect you. When they don't know your limits, they assume you have none. The powerful man or woman doesn't need to announce ambition, they radiate it. Machiavelli once warned, "He who builds on the people builds on mud." People change, loyalties fade, perception lies. That's why true power must rest on self-reliance and secrecy. You can trust, but slowly. You can connect, but carefully. The Machiavellian never exposes the full blueprint. Every alliance is conditional. Every friendship is measured. Because power built on emotional dependency collapses the moment approval is withdrawn. Now we enter a darker but essential territory. The control of identity. Most people have no clear sense of who they are. They borrow identity from lovers, leaders, cultures, or crowds. If you can become the mirror that reflects someone's best version of themselves, you own their allegiance. You don't enslave them through fear. You bind them through meaning. You become the frame through which they see their value. Tell someone, "You're different from the rest," and they'll want to prove you right. Give them a role protector, rebel, muse, genius, and they'll subconsciously protect it. Reward that identity with praise only when they act in alignment. Withdraw when they betray it. Watch their panic. Over time, they'll need your validation just to feel consistent. That's the psychological leash Machiavelli hinted at when he said that the best rulers are those who rule the hearts of their subjects. Understand, this tactic is not for cruelty, it's for awareness. Power always plays with human need. People don't just want love, they want a mirror. If you provide that reflection, they'll guard you like their own heartbeat. Now, here's where the philosophy sharpens. Up to this point, you've been wearing the mask of power-changing posture, tone, behavior, control. But as Machiavelli noted, repetition shapes reality. The mask eventually fuses with the face. You fake calmness long enough, and your body learns calm. You practice restraint long enough, and your emotions align. You perform confidence long enough, and it becomes your default setting. You're not pretending anymore, you're evolving. Most people chase finding themselves. A Machiavellian builds themselves, brick by brick, habit by habit, response by response. Until one day, there's no distinction between the tactic and the person. You are the strategy. That's what makes the truly powerful so unsettling. They don't act like they have options. They know they are the option. By now, your outer behavior has started to shift. Less reaction, more silence, more control. But that exterior must match something internal, something unshakable. Otherwise, it's still performance. And performance cracks under chaos. Machiavelli knew this. The fortress you build outside your reputation, your control, means nothing without the fortress you build inside. Because people are not controlled by brute force. They're controlled by what they assume about you. And when you can shape those assumptions without explaining, without proving, you become untouchable. This is where most stop. Thinking power is external. It's not. It's an energy field, an atmosphere. It's how people feel when you enter a room, and that feeling starts in your mind. So, the next layer of the blueprint is something he never wrote plainly, but lived. The art of silence. Silence is not the absence of power, it's its highest form. Most people panic in silence. They fill it, defend themselves, over-explain. A Machiavellian uses it as pressure. Speak less, mean more. Most importantly, let the pause do the work. The longer someone wonders what you're thinking, the more control you gain. In conversation, let pauses extend just a little too long. In conflict, resist the urge to fill the gap. When someone seeks your approval, delay it. Make them wait in uncertainty, it builds value. When accused, don't defend, look. Hold eye contact and say nothing. Stillness will unsettle them more than argument ever could. In group settings, speak late. Say one thing that lands like a blade. Then step back and let the silence echo. People remember what wasn't said. They obsess over the blanks. In those blanks, you become legend. Silence, scarcity, restraint. These are not passive qualities. They are weapons of influence. And Machiavelli understood their sharp edges better than anyone. The less you give away, the more people project. They'll imagine what you're thinking, what you're planning, what you want. And in that uncertainty, they hand you control. Think of the most powerful figures in history, the ones who terrified and fascinated people at the same time. They rarely spoke more than necessary. That wasn't arrogance, it was calculation. They let others talk themselves into submission. They let rumors bloom because rumors are louder than truths. They let their mystery do the work. This is the power of negative space. What you don't say, what you don't show, what you don't react to. Most people rush to fill the silence, desperate to be understood. But a Machiavellian understands that silence is not empty. It's charged. It's the tension that makes every word, every movement, every glance matter 10 times more. You must train yourself to let others reveal their hunger first. In every social interaction, in business, in love, in power dynamics, let them speak. Let them fill the silence. The one who speaks least controls the tone. The one who listens longest learns the truth. The one who pauses owns the moment. When you master that, you'll notice something strange. People begin to fear your opinion even before you give it. They try to impress you preemptively. They project respect, admiration, even anxiety onto your calm. You've shifted from chasing validation to setting the emotional temperature of every room you enter. This is what Machiavelli meant when he said it's not necessary to be loved. It's necessary to be respected. And respect, more than anything, is born in uncertainty. Now let's move into the next level of control, the art of rejection. The world worships approval. People shape their identities around being liked, accepted, chosen. They'll do almost anything to avoid rejection. That's why it's so powerful when you master it. When you can calmly say no to invitations, temptations, validation, you send a clear message. You are the prize. Most people spend their lives chasing what they want. A Machiavellian trains others to chase him. Power belongs to those who can walk away. The ability to reject is the ability to define reality. When you choose what and who deserves your attention, you control your own narrative. So learn to weaponize rejection, not as cruelty, but as contrast. When someone gets too eager, step back. When someone fails to meet your standard, withdraw quietly without justifying yourself. When invited somewhere, delay your answer. Let them feel the cost of your presence. And when someone tries to insult or provoke you, don't defend. Smile faintly, as if amused. It shows they didn't hit the target. Rejection creates scarcity. Scarcity builds power, and power always magnetizes desire. People don't value what's everywhere. They crave what's rare. The ultimate form of seduction isn't being wanted by everyone. It's being wanted by many, but choosing only a few. That's how respect hardens into fascination. You stop chasing, and others adjust to your gravity. They start checking their words around you. They think twice before testing your patience. They talk about you when you're not around, wondering what you think, what you want, who you'll choose next. You've become psychological territory. But this external control means nothing if the internal voice still sounds weak. Everything you project outward, your posture, your stillness, your presence, begins with self-talk. Your inner dialogue is the real general of your power, and for most people that general is lazy, frightened, and undisciplined. If your inner monologue is filled with, "I hope they like me," "I hope I don't mess this up," or "I hope they notice me," then no matter what performance you put on outside, people will sense insecurity. It leaks through your tone, your timing, your eyes. The Machiavellian mindset rewires that dialogue completely. It removes hope and replaces it with choice. It doesn't say, "I hope they like me." It says, "Let's see if they qualify." It doesn't say, "I'm nervous." It says, "This is how power sharpens itself." It doesn't say, "What if they reject me?" It says, "Good. They revealed their value early." It doesn't say, "Why did they do that to me?" It says, "I allowed it, never again." See the difference? One voice begs for respect. The other commands it. Machiavelli understood that no one owes you respect. You must earn it through discipline, control, and undeniable competence. The way you speak to yourself when no one's watching decides how you behave when everyone is. You are either your own general or your own saboteur. If you don't command your mind, someone else will. Now we step into one of Machiavelli's most subtle tactics, frame control. Every conversation, every conflict, every negotiation operates inside a frame, an unspoken context that defines who's leading and who's following. Most people never notice it. They argue inside someone else's frame and wonder why they lose. But the person who defines the frame defines the reality. Machiavellians don't argue facts. They reshape the lens. For example, if someone calls you arrogant, don't defend yourself. Say, "Confidence looks like arrogance to the insecure." You've shifted the context. Now they're on defense. If someone talks over you, pause, let the silence stretch, then calmly ask, "Are you finished?" The room will recalibrate instantly. If someone gossips to you, ask, "Why are you so comfortable telling me this?" Suddenly the spotlight is on them, not their story. The key is to never fight the frame you're given. Break it. Or better, build your own before anyone else does. When you control the frame, you don't have to raise your voice. You've already written the script everyone else is reading from. Most people let others dictate how they should feel, react, or interpret the world. The Machiavellian sets the definitions. He decides what confidence looks like, what respect means, what winning feels like. And because people crave clarity, they'll accept his version, often without realizing it. But frame control doesn't come from clever phrases alone. It's powered by energy, by the calm, grounded presence of someone who's untouchable. That's why Machiavelli insisted that every ruler must build a fortress. In his time, it was literal stone. In ours, it's psychological armor. Your mind is your fortress. It must be built quietly, guarded ruthlessly, and opened only when necessary. That's what gives birth to what I call fortress energy. The aura of someone who doesn't react, doesn't flinch, doesn't overshare. The kind of calm that feels dangerous. The kind of stillness that makes people second-guess themselves. Fortress energy begins in solitude. You must learn to be alone without loneliness. Because if you need constant validation, you can never be truly powerful. Train in private. Study. Build. Refine. Let the world think you're idle while you're upgrading in silence. Every time you resist the urge to explain, you add another brick. Every time you stay composed under attack, you reinforce the walls. Every time you observe instead of react, your fortress grows stronger. A fortress doesn't announce itself. It simply stands, unshaken, while storms rage outside. That's what makes it terrifying. In a room full of loud personalities and restless energy, be the still one, the quiet one, the one whose calmness feels like control. The moment you stop chasing external validation, the power dynamic flips. People begin to wonder what you're hiding, what you're capable of, what it would take to impress you. That curiosity, mixed with a little fear, is respect in its purest form. And once respect becomes instinct, once silence becomes your weapon and solitude your training ground, you enter the realm Machiavelli reserved for only the rarest kind of individual, the kind who doesn't just hold power, but radiates it. The kind who can walk into chaos and change the atmosphere without saying a word. By now, you've learned to seduce minds, control perception, and carry yourself like someone whose confidence doesn't need permission. But there's one final transformation, a shift from simply being respected to becoming unforgettable. Machiavelli wasn't only studying how power is gained, he was studying how it endures, how a person's presence can live on long after they've left the room. This is the transition from influence to legacy. The final stage of the Machiavellian path isn't about noise, it's about design. Every great manipulator, ruler, and leader in history understood this truth. Presence is an art form. If you want to be remembered, you can't just exist. You must appear in a way that leaves residue, an impression that clings. This is where we explore how to turn your energy, your timing, and even your disappearance into power moves. Start with this. Become their standard. The greatest seduction isn't temporary. It's permanent mental real estate. When you leave, people should compare everyone else to you. When they meet someone new, they should feel that quiet disappointment, that something's missing feeling, because they've measured that person against you. That's not vanity, it's psychological engineering. You've become the reference point, the internal metric. And once you're their standard, you live rent-free in their mind. How do you do it? By contrast. When you exit someone's life, leave with mystery, not closure. Don't explain, don't justify, don't tidy it up. Let them wonder. Let their mind fill in the gaps. When you enter a new space, bring an energy that doesn't blend in. You don't need to be loud or eccentric, just distinct. Speak less, observe more. Make them feel something they didn't expect: fear, admiration, curiosity, even discomfort. The human mind remembers intensity, not routine. Machiavelli understood this law. The mind latches onto contrast. Be unlike what they've known, and you'll haunt them. Not like a ghost, but like a missing piece. When you make people feel something profound, shock, awe, inspiration, even a touch of fear, they'll spend months replaying that feeling. That's how myths are born. You're not competing for attention, you're creating emotional imprints. So, make your presence a performance and your absence an event. There are two types of people: those whose presence is background noise, and those whose absence feels like oxygen leaving the room. You're building toward the second. To achieve that, practice strategic scarcity. Appear rarely but powerfully. But if you're everywhere, you become wallpaper. Scarcity builds mystique. When you enter a room, don't burst in with noise. Enter with stillness. Stillness makes people notice. Energy fades. Calmness endures. And always, always leave before you're forgotten. Your goal isn't to be constantly seen. It's to be missed. When silence falls after your departure, don't rush to fill it. Let absence speak for you. That quiet space where people wonder, where did they go? That's psychological gravity. It makes others check themselves, replay their words, and question what they could have done differently. Discomfort is the echo of your power. This is the secret behind every unforgettable leader, lover, or legend. They know when to appear, and they know when to vanish. They don't exhaust their value. They preserve it. They let longing do the talking. Machiavelli would call this the art of myth building. You don't announce your legend, you let others build it for you. Drop hints about who you are, then pull back. Let people overhear praise about you, but never repeat it yourself. When accused of something untrue, don't rush to deny it. Smile faintly, and let mystery do the heavy lifting. Why? Because people don't defend rumors about those they don't find interesting. The fact that they're talking at all means you've entered their emotional landscape. Let them fill in the blanks. Every rumor, every assumption, every whispered exaggeration builds your myth. Machiavelli's genius was this. Truth doesn't have to defeat rumor, it can use it. If you let people build your story from incomplete information, it becomes more powerful than anything you could construct yourself. People don't believe facts. They believe the stories they co-author. So, don't over-clarify. Don't correct every misconception. Let your myth breathe. When you control inputs, your tone, your silence, your selective exposure, the world will create an image of you larger than life, and that's what endures. Because here's a paradox Machiavelli understood perfectly. When you chase recognition, people resist you. When you withdraw it, they crave you. When you make yourself too available, they take you for granted. But when you vanish at your peak, they mythologize you. This is why you must transcend the persona and become the archetype. At first, you were acting. You played the confident one, the seductive one, the powerful one. But that was preparation. Now you become something greater, an embodiment, not an imitation. Every powerful figure eventually evolves beyond personality into symbol. They stop being someone with traits and start being the trait itself. You're no longer someone who seems confident. You are confidence. You're not someone who seduces. You are seduction. You're not someone who commands power. You are power. That's when your energy shifts. People stop analyzing you. They start feeling you. You've turned into an archetype. The king, the queen, the enigma, the storm, the savior, the flame. Choose one that suits your nature and embody it so deeply that people see you as more than human, as inevitable. The archetype is what lives on. People don't remember details. They remember essence. They won't recall every word you said or every move you made, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And that feeling becomes your myth, your brand, your immortality. To reach that point, you must live your principles ruthlessly. You must maintain boundaries even when lonely. You must stay composed when provoked. You must disappear at the peak of curiosity. Every action either strengthens or weakens the legend you're building. Every silence adds a brick to your temple. Machiavelli wrote, "A prince must learn how not to be good, and use this knowledge or not according to necessity." That line isn't about cruelty. It's about strategy. Being good all the time makes you predictable. Being strategic makes you powerful. Goodness should be a choice, not a default. Mercy should be a tactic, not a reflex. And so you become two things at once, the presence and the myth. When people meet you, they feel the gravity of someone who's lived unseen chapters. They sense history in your silence. They project meaning onto your calm. You no longer chase perception. You define it by existing. That's the Machiavellian endgame. Not domination through force, but domination through memory. You've built something indestructible, an identity that survives absence, rumor, and even death. But there's still one more layer. Because becoming an archetype isn't the end, it's the beginning of mastery. You've shaped perception and energy. Now you'll shape time itself, when to appear, when to speak, when to act, until your life feels like a controlled myth unfolding in real time. You've worn the mask, mastered control, and turned silence into strength. Now comes the final transformation. Machiavellian immortality. Not the kind carved in marble or shouted in headlines, but the quiet kind that lingers. The kind that lives in people's thoughts long after you're gone. Real power isn't about being everywhere. It's about being remembered everywhere. When your absence still bends decisions, when your silence still shapes behavior, that's when you've crossed into legacy. Machiavelli knew, the most powerful person isn't the one who commands attention, but the one who no longer needs to. To reach that level, you must master timing and disappearance. Never stay until you're ordinary. Leave while your presence still creates tension. Exit while they still want more. Mystery is what keeps you alive in their minds. Every time you vanish at your peak, you plant a seed of fascination. People replay what they can't finish. The unfinished becomes immortal. Never explain your exits. Don't clean up your story. Let them wonder what you meant, where you went, and what you're planning. Curiosity is the strongest form of attachment. When they talk about you, correct nothing. Myths grow stronger in silence. You must learn to weaponize absence. When you disappear, do it without warning. Don't announce retreats, just go. The world fears a quiet mind. The less people know, the more they imagine. The imagination is your greatest servant. Feed it with fragments. Let rumors and stories evolve without your interference. The powerful never chase clarification. They let mystery do the talking. Then, add symbolism. People don't remember words, they remember energy. Become a living symbol. The calm in chaos. The danger behind stillness. The fire that never begs to be seen. Choose an archetype, king. Phantom, flame, storm, and embody it fully. When people see you, they should feel an emotion, not form an opinion. This is how myth forms. The more people project meaning onto you, the less human you become, and the more unforgettable. A Machiavellian doesn't seek affection. Affection dies when you leave. He seeks imprint, because imprint survives absence. When someone can't replace you, even after forgetting your face, that's power. Every appearance must feel intentional. Speak rarely, act decisively, vanish elegantly. Don't overstay your power. The world worships scarcity, become it. Leave silence where others would explain. Leave absence where others would perform. Your restraint will echo louder than any speech. Machiavelli's final truth was this: power that must prove itself is already dying. Real power is felt, not displayed. Hidden, not declared. You began this path pretending to be confident. Now you are confidence. You performed control until it fused into identity. Now you no longer play the game. You are the rule it follows. And when they realize it, it will already be too late. Because while they were watching, you became untouchable. A presence that rewrites the air. A silence that commands thought. A myth that does not fade.